Today is Mother's Day. I am so excited about the word that God gave me for all of you this morning. Now listen, this is not your typical Mother's Day message, all right? We softened you up with a bunch of gifts, Italian sodas, free pictures, cute little dances, because I've got a challenging word for you today. And I want to be challenged on Mother's Day, don't you? I want to get a word from God and apply it. Maybe it's just me. All right, guys, wow. Does anybody want to be challenged this morning? Does anyone want to get better? Let's do it. All right. Well, I'm going to share with you two passages this morning that are intertwined. And many of us have probably wondered, why would God intertwine these passages? And I believe that there's a gem in here that we've never seen before. So let's dive right into some scripture. Luke 8:40 says this. Now, when Jesus returned, a crowd welcomed him, for they were all expecting him. Then a man named Jairus, a synagogue leader, came and fell at Jesus' feet, pleading with him to come to his house because his only daughter, a girl about 12, was dying. As Jesus was on his way, the crowds almost crushed him. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years, but no one could heal her. She came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak, and immediately her bleeding stopped. "Who touched me?" Jesus said. When they all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the people of the crowd are pressing against you." But Jesus said, "No, someone touched me. I know, because the power had gone out from me." Then the woman, seeing that she could go unnoticed, came trembling, and she fell at his feet in the presence of all the people. She told why she had touched him and how she had been instantly healed. Then he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace." Now this is a beautiful scene, but the next scene now comes into play. Let's see what happens here. While Jesus was still speaking, someone came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue leader, and said, "Your daughter is dead. Don't bother the teacher anymore." Hearing this, Jesus turned to Jairus and he said, "Don't be afraid, just believe, and she will be healed." When he arrived at the house, he did not let anyone go in with him except Peter, John, and James, and the child's father and mother. Meanwhile, all the people were wailing and mourning for her. "Stop wailing," Jesus said. "She is not dead, but asleep." They laughed at him, knowing that she was dead. But he took her by the hand and said, "My child, get up." Her spirit returned, and at once she stood up. Then Jesus told them to give her something to eat. I believe that this story today is a template for what God wants to do in the generations of the women in our church. And you may be wondering, Aubrey, why are these stories intertwined? They have nothing to do with one another. Why is it that on the way to Jairus' daughter getting healed, a woman, or getting awakened, a woman had to be healed? Well, I'm going to share another verse with you to help you understand this better. Titus 2:3 says, "Older women likewise are to be reverent in their behavior, not slanderers or addicted to too much wine, but teachers of good. In this way they can train the young women to love their husbands and their children, to be self-controlled, to be pure, and managers of their household, kind and submissive to their husbands, so that the word of God will not be discredited." So the desire of God is that the older women, the older men, would mentor and train up the next generation. But unfortunately, I believe we have a credibility gap. And the reason that the generation underneath us right now is asleep in their pronouns, asleep in their anxiety, asleep in their spirituality, is because there's been a lack of credible teachers. They've looked at the older generation, that's us, and said, "You know what? They need healing of their own. I'm looking at their bleeding issues. I like God, but I'm not sure I want him because I don't know if I want him to turn me into you." God had to heal a woman before he was able to awaken a sleeping generation. When I look for a mentor in my life, I look at the fruit of someone's life. I look at their husband, the way they treat their husband. I look at their children. I look at everything and I say, do I want to submit myself under that woman? Do I want the fruit of her life? And now that I'm a mother, and now that I'm a leader in this church, I'm constantly asking myself that question. Because I know that these kids are watching me. And they're watching closer than we think they do. They're a smart bunch. So I'm constantly doing intel on my life to make sure that I am best representing Christ. I have to ask myself, is my life making God look attractive? Or am I running the next generation out of the house of God because of the rotten fruit in my life? Now, I'm not talking about perfection. God does not expect perfection from us, but there has been a credibility gap that I believe God is asking us to bridge this morning so that we can be better mothers, fathers, spiritual fathers, so that we can awaken this next generation. So today, my goal is to seek healing in the areas of our life where we have an unclean flow. I want to dig deep and bridge this credibility gap for the generation that's rising in our homes, in our church, and in our community. Let's awaken them to the things of God. Now, like I said, this is not your typical Mother's Day message. We softened you up because it's going to be a challenging one. But I believe, you guys, that this is a prophetic word for the generations of the women of our church. So if we can take this and apply this, we're going to see young people storm into this place, which is my heart, and I hope it's your heart as well. Now, the woman in this story, she's bleeding, all right? And they believed in that day that she was contagious. So she was blocked out from being able to go to church. She was blocked out from enjoying friendship. She was blocked out from the intimacy of marriage, and therefore she can't enjoy relationship of any kind. We would call that word toxic in today's culture. Maybe you're thinking of someone as I'm saying this that pops into your head that just lives a toxic life, and because of that, she can't enjoy anything in life. Now, this woman in the story, as messed up as she was, is a hero in my book because she was honest. Because she got honest with herself. She wasn't the only sick person mosh pitting Jesus on that day, but she is the only one who got honest with herself, which is why she's the only one that has a recorded healing. She says, this unclean flow from my life, this rotten fruit, the stench of it, it's permeating into every area of my life, and it's costing me deeply. I'm tired of suffering, so I'm gonna get real, and I'm gonna reach out to Jesus for a healing. Have you gotten honest about the fruit of your life? Is the fruit rotten or is the fruit ripe? What area of your life is the stench of the rotten fruit permeating into? Like this woman, we have to get honest about this fruit. I have to do it all the time because I know that young kids are watching me, and I want to exemplify Jesus in the best way possible so that they're attracted to God's house and not running away from it. She says, this unclean flow from my life, God, I need you to heal it. So Jesus heals this woman, and the next step is that the next generation is able to be awakened and step into their God-given potential. So today, let's deal with some issues, all right? I'm ready to deal with some issues. I want to break down Paul's letter to Titus and look at some practical ways that we can bridge this credibility gap. Here we go. Thought one, leadership always sets the example. Spiritual talk without a spiritual walk leads to a generation staying asleep because they see the hypocrisy of what we do not lining up with what we say. One of the biggest reasons that a generation is asleep and caught in anxiety and would prefer to live on their phones and in an AI world is because fantasy to them seems better than reality. It's because so many men and women of God have talked the talk and not walked the walk. And to be honest with you guys, and I'm not just talking to you guys, I'm talking to myself too. Too many scandals have come out on Christians, and it's hurt us. It's hurt us big time with the next generation because they're looking and they're saying, man, this Christianity thing just looks fake. It doesn't look real. Why are they having so many scandals come out on them? And here's the deal. They also think we're weird because some Christians, they overcompensate for a lack of spiritual walk with the spiritual talk. And you know who these people are. Let me just speak this word into you. Let me just preach this scripture a little bit. Let me pass this thing on to you. And the young people are saying, listen, I hear what you're saying. I, in fact, like what you're saying. But your life doesn't match up with what you're saying. So therefore, I don't want to awake to a phony reality. I'm just going to keep living on my AI, fake fantasy world. I know this is a tough message this morning, but I truly believe if we can apply this, then we're going to see the next generation awakened in the house of God. Now listen, like I said, I gotta ask myself these questions all the time. And protecting my feelings is not worth losing the next generation. I understand they're watching my life. We think they're not watching. We think they're just staring at their cell phones. No, they're peeking out to the side. They're watching us more than we think they are. And it hurts to dig deep and ask these questions, but seeing them awakened and on fire for God is so worth it to me. You see, God has this generation that he desperately wants to awaken, but they're staying asleep because they don't want to awaken to a phony reality. So you see, Titus is saying, women, I want you to be reverent in your behavior, not slanderous, not addicted to too much wine, but teachers of good. So let's break that down. First of all, he says not slanderous. It's like that scene, not that I've seen this, in the movie Mean Girls where they're like, who here has been a victim of slander from Regina George? And the whole room like raises their hand. They're like, me. How many of you here today, and we got to get honest about this, have been a victim of slander from a Christian? Anyone? What did that do to you? Did that hurt you? Of course it hurt you. What did it make you want to do? Did it make you want to run from the house of God? Well, I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you're still here today, but it hurt. You see, Paul is saying, women, you've got to stop doing this. He didn't come to them and say, please tell the women to quote more scripture. Please tell the women to get another tattoo of their favorite Bible verse on their wrist and show the world that they are a Christian. Please tell the women to judge that girl who walks in with a crop top 1 inch too short. What's up? Tell them to judge more. No, he said we've got to stop piping off and lying about one another because it's running people out of the house of God. Now, this isn't Dream City Church, by the way. Dream City Church is the nicest church on planet Earth, but it's a grave warning to all of us, the dangers that we could experience if we don't stay the nicest church. Proverbs 6:16 says this, there are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush to evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. See, you see, a lying tongue is detestable to God. Could it be that we have a generation asleep in their pronouns, asleep in their LGBTQ confusion, asleep in their spirituality, not wanting anything to do with God is because when they've looked in the church, they've run away and they've not been compelled to it. Now, like I said, I don't believe this is Dream City Church because we've got an on-fire group of young people here. But I believe that America today is living in the current harvest of the way that we have treated each other as Christians and the words that we've used to hurt one another. And this generation that has arisen has looked at us and they've deemed us as unfit teachers. It's kind of like the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I mean, those women just fight. And look, the church cannot look like a less glamorous version of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. They're wearing Gucci, we're wearing TJ Maxx. I'm not saying Dream City looks this way at all, but it's a grave warning to all of us that the fruit of our lives, it speaks louder than we think it does to the next generation. You see, Jesus qualified what love should look like. He says, a new command I give you, that you should love one another. In the world, we love talking about love. Honestly, we don't even know what the word love means anymore. We say, oh, I love that. I love that drink. I love that outfit. I love that celebrity. I love that song. I love him. I love her. And God's like, you don't even know what the word love means anymore. I want you to love like I have loved you. Think about how I have loved you. I mean, how beautiful has Jesus been to us? How gracious has he been to us? Does he treat us poorly? Does he slander us? Does he gossip about us to his buddies, God and the Holy Spirit? No, he's been so good to us. And I believe that if we can learn to love like Jesus has loved us, we're gonna see young people flock into this house because they want more of that. They want to know what true love looks like. Second, Paul says, not addicted to too much wine. All right, here we go. And teach them purity and self-control. Listen, on everything in planet Earth that we humans enjoy, we have to teach the next generation what self-control and awareness looks like. How to live in purity but still have fun. My mother-in-law likes to call it fun and holy. Galatians 5:13 says, "For you have been called to live in freedom, my brothers and sisters. But don't use your freedom to satisfy your sinful nature. Instead, use your freedom to serve one another in love." So we have to be considerate and we have to be aware in how we use that freedom. Alcohol, like anything in our lives, has to be implemented with boundaries and consideration for who is watching. Now, for example, my family and my husband and me, we've all decided we're not drinking. We don't touch alcohol, we stay away from it. Because we understand that the work we do is recovering people from addiction of alcohol. So we have a consideration of who is watching us. Don't use your freedom to satisfy your flesh, but to serve others in love. So we have a consideration for who is watching us. Alcohol, sex, what you watch, what you wear, what you say. Yes, God has given you freedom and free will over all of these things, but not without boundaries. Because without boundaries, these things become extremely destructive in our lives. And not just for us, but for the lives of those who are watching us as well. So what's the solution to freedom? Well, we have to model our freedom well. You know, I've watched my parents enjoy life. They've enjoyed the best of life. And they've implemented boundaries as an example for my sister and I to see how to enjoy life. You know, they haven't lived like Amish and thrown the TV in the fire with the devil and his demons and said, that's where you belong. No, they taught us. There are boundaries that we can implement here. And you know, lazy parenting would be to say, no TV, no movies, no mall, no friends, no sleepovers, no. But my parents understood that freedom, it's a gift from God. God wants us to enjoy freedom, but we have to implement boundaries in our lives so that we can learn how to be pure and holy. As a result, I've grown up a healthy and enjoyable life. I've watched how to enjoy freedom and how to live a pure life. Now listen, there are two pits that the devil would love for us to fall into when it comes to freedom. And the first pit is the pit of worldliness. And that's the pit of, I live in America and I can do what I want to do and I can say what I want to say and I can wear what I want to wear and I can sleep with whoever I want to sleep with. That's the pit of worldliness. But Paul says, no, stop using your freedom to be selfish. Use it to serve one another in love. Paul says we have to teach these young women purity and self-control. And then the next pit is the pit of the Pharisees. And this is the side that's always poking. And they're always judging. And they're always pointing out everybody else's flaws other than their own. It's amazing when they look in the mirror, they're blind. I'm perfect. I'm amazing. But as soon as they turn from the mirror, they've got X-ray vision. And they can see and judge your every move. Listen, leadership sets the example. Our lives have to be a shining example to the next generation. Are we mean? Are we slanderous? Are we judgmental? Are we worldly? Do we lack self-control? It's time for the good teachers to rise up and live by example so that we can awaken this next generation. The second way to fill this credibility gap is we have to be well prepared for training. Here's what Paul says to Titus. If these ladies can just get it together and allow the Lord to heal them of their issues and understand that they are my designated teachers of the next generation, then this way they can train the young women to love their husbands and love their children. Now, isn't that interesting language? We have to train the young women to love their husbands and love their children. You know what that means? It doesn't come naturally. You know, when I was in middle school, I was a competitive runner. I hated running, but I did it because I loved my dad and I loved to win. So I despised it because, who wants to go to school all day and then go run in 100-degree heat afterwards? I haven't touched a treadmill since because I'm so burnt out from it. And that was like, how many years ago? 10, 15 years ago? I'm still burnt out. And so on my weekends, what I loved to do more than anything else, my flesh, it loved to sleep in. I wanted to sleep all day long. And then I'd get up and mosey in my pajamas to my couch, pull out my salt and vinegar chips that I tucked into the cushion, turn on the TV, and that's what I wanted to do all day. But I remember my dad would come in on the weekends and say, Aubrey, put on your shoes. It's time to go for a run. And he was so happy about it. Why are you so happy about that? I don't understand it. I mean, he hiked 800 miles. I don't really know what's wrong with him. So he would come in and make me go on a run. I didn't want to do it. I wasn't thinking as I'm running and my heart is pounding in my chest, geez, I love doing this. I feel like I'm gonna pass out from heat exhaustion. This is great. No, I never once thought that, but my flesh, it had to be trained. My flesh was screaming, salt and vinegar chips, I want you. TV, cozy couch, I want you so bad. And right here, Paul is saying, I want you to train the young women how to love their husband and their children. Do you know why we must train them? Because the world is training them. And they're training them extremely aggressively from a very young age. I want you to look at this new movie clip that came out this year that was targeted at young women. Go ahead and turn your attentions to the screens.
Since the beginning of time, since the first little girl ever existed, there have been dolls. But the dolls were always and forever baby dolls. The girls who played with them could only ever play at being mothers, which can be fun, at least for a while anyway. Ask your mother. This continued until
I mean, come on, guys. The message could not be clearer. The world is not afraid at training their disciples that marriage and motherhood is something to be despised, to be rejected. They're saying, geez, woman, you could be anything you want. Don't be a mother and a wife. You're so much more than that. You're a sellout. You could have a career. Don't be a one-dimensional woman who bakes sourdough bread from scratch. How dare you? How dare you love your husband? How dare you want to raise a family? What I hate more than anything on planet Earth is when I sit with a mom and I ask her, what do you do? And instantly that look of shame, oh, I'm just a mother. Just a mother? You're tasked with the greatest calling on planet Earth. You're raising the next generation. You're raising the next pastors, the next marketplace gurus. Just a mother. You're doing the Lord's work. Being responsible for raising a family is an honorable calling. I remember when I got pregnant, I'm gonna be very honest with you guys. When I got pregnant, everybody loved to tell me how my life was over. Oh, sweetheart, don't you want to travel? Oh, sweetheart, don't you want to enjoy your marriage a little more? I mean, come on, it's over when you have that kid. Okay, excuse me, I've traveled more than ever since I've had a baby, and my marriage is better than ever since I've had a baby. Like, where do these lies come from? The world has told you this lie that raising a family, loving your husband, traveling, and having a career is mutually exclusive. But I'm here to tell you that's not true. I'm a living example of all of those things. You will find that as you let God take you on this journey of life, he will show you the best of both worlds. You can have the marriage, you can have the kids, you can travel and enjoy your life, you can have the career. But do you know what discredits this to the next generation? When we complain about motherhood and wifery all the time. It discredits it to them. And honestly, guys, Christian women, we're really bad at this. I'll go on these Christian women pages and I saw this meme that said, you have to be medicated or inebriated to handle motherhood. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what is that doing to young girls who follow your account with dreams of motherhood someday? I saw one that said, man, I know I made this vow to my husband, but I didn't realize there's gonna be this much laundry. Like, what are we doing? We're discrediting God's greatest gift to the next generation. And when I was pregnant, I'd have people tell me like, oh my word, are you prepared to wash bottles all day? Oh my goodness, do you realize you're never gonna sleep again? Do you realize you're never gonna have a date night again? And to be honest with you, for many years out of fear, I didn't have a baby. I pushed it off because I was like, whoa, 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 I hear it's the worst thing on planet Earth. I don't wanna do it. And now that I've had him, I'm like, this is the best gift on planet Earth. I'm doing what God made me to do. I feel so fulfilled and so excited to raise the next generation. You see, the world is training women to despise what God has called the catalyst for a healthy society. We have to be way more genuine, way more compelling, way more convincing in our truth than the world is in their lies. You know, there was a woman in Australia named Brooke Smith. And this woman made national news because she posted how she got up at 5 a.m. to make her husband a cup of coffee. And the people like flipped out. They were like, what? She makes her husband a cup of coffee at 5 a.m.? She goes, yes, I love to lay my kids' clothes out before they go to school in the morning. I make everybody's lunches. And I know my husband slaves away at work all day, so it's my joy to make him a coffee before he goes to work in the morning. And she was mocked and ridiculed, national news. You know, all the feminists out there were like, what? You make your husband a cup of coffee? When I get up in the morning, I punch my husband in the face. What's amazing is in the beginning, God describes the divine design for a woman. He is looking at Adam alone, and it says, it's not good for man to be alone. I will make a helper comparable to him. Women, you are designed to bring help. God looked at man alone and said, that man needs some help. Can I get an amen, ladies? I'll say, hey, the baby's diaper is on the counter. He's like, huh? Where? We're designed to bring help right here, Ash. The diaper is right here. Turn your eyes 15 degrees. I swear I'm looking right at it. We are designed to bring help. You see, the only two times in the Bible that the word helper is ever used is when God made woman and when he talked about the Holy Spirit. We are the only two beings to have the word described helper. Women, you have a magnificent job and a magnificent calling that the devil would love to destroy, but we have to stop complaining about it. We have to stop complaining about our husbands and our children. Listen, I know tons of women who are looking for an amazing husband and looking to have children of their own. They'll take them off your hands for you if you really want. But you see, we're calling a burden what thousands of women out there would call a blessing. We have to stop it. We have to stop discrediting God's greatest catalyst for a health of society through our complaining. We must be prepared for our training day and be more compelling in our truth than the world is in their lies because they're bearing no good fruit. And then the final thought for bridging this credibility gap is we will reproduce women after our own kind. If we are seeing a harvest that we don't like, we're gonna have to stop and look in the mirror. One of the biggest things that keeps the next generation asleep is watching how poorly we treat one another. Paul said to Titus, have the older women teach the younger women to be self-controlled, pure, managers of their own household, and kind. The signature over every Christian woman's life has to be the word kind. I don't care what your personality type is. You may be a type A, Enneagram 8, and the room shakes when you walk into it. Doesn't matter. Your life should be kind. And if it's not kind, I have to ask you a tough question this morning. How well do you actually know Jesus? What's your relationship like with him? Because God is kind. I think God has been so kind to me. The church cannot look like a less glamorous versions of the Real Housewives. We have to be kind. How much does it grieve the Father's heart to see us being vindictive, to going for the jugular online on those social media comments? The Bible says, don't let the sun set down on your anger. Yet some of us sit at home and we wind up our bitterness, we wind up our anger, we wind it up instead of forgiving. We have to be kind. Now look, Galatians 5:14 says, for the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one command, love your neighbor as yourself. Now look, I'm not expecting to be loved by everybody. You know, Christianity, we're not gonna be loved by everybody, and it's for the right reasons. It's because we're taking a stand. But I don't have a problem with the haters on the outside. What I do have a problem with is with the haters on the inside of God's house. And I think that God is asking us to be different women so that we can see a different harvest in this next generation. So I have some questions for the different groups of women as we close today. First group, what loops do we need to close? What people in our lives are we no longer speaking to because of a decision that we've made? Some of us need to write letters and reconcile today. Some of us need to pick up the phone and call that mother we haven't spoken to for many years. What loops do I need to close? I want to be an example that my children can look at me and say, I just thank God for the women at Dream City Church who led by example for me. We will reproduce women after our own kind. And then the second group, it's time for us to present these bleeding issues to the Lord. What unclean flow from my life is not only hurting me, but hurting the sleeping generation under me? Because we will reproduce women after our own kind. And what I love about this story is when God heals that woman, he says to her, go in peace, for your faith has healed you. What's the biggest issue that women today face? Lack of peace. So when you get honest with yourself and the issues in your life and you get brave and reach out for healing, you're gonna find a new sense of peace in your life. And then the third and final group, I love this. The Bible says that Jairus was the leader of the synagogue, so he represents a pastor. And when they went to his house, the people were all on the outside mourning, and they were crying and they were wailing. Those people represent the church. They'd written off that young girl. They'd said, she's asleep, she's dead. There's no hope for this generation. They're asleep in their pronouns. They're asleep in their anxiety. They're asleep in their sexuality. It's over. I'm just going to stand outside this church and wail and mourn and cry. But then Jesus walks up and he says, stop wailing. They're not dead. They're just asleep. And some of you today have children in your home and in your life, in your community, and you've been wailing, you've been mourning, they're dead, they're dead, they're dead, they're lost to this world, but you've forgotten the second part of the story. God comes in and he looks at that little girl, he says, Talitha cum, which means rise, little child, stand up and awaken. And some of you need to declare over your children, over this next generation, Talitha cum, arise, children, and awaken. The fight is not over. We can awaken them. On the way to awakening a young girl, there was a divine interruption of a healing. So today, if you would just stand with me this morning, I want to bridge this credibility gap in this morning. Maybe you're one of those three groups. Group one, I've got things I need to reconcile, people I need to reconcile with in my life. Group two, I've got bleeding issues, I'm toxic. I need to grab a hold of some different areas so I can be the best example to this next generation. And then group three, I've lost hope. I'm wailing, I'm mourning like the people in the story, but I'm ready to stand up in faith and start declaring life over this next generation. So if you're one of those three groups, would you just raise your hand for me this morning? Beautiful, thank you, thank you. I'm gonna pray over you, and then Pastor Luke's gonna come up and close us out. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for every woman in this place today who has a heart after you. Thank you that you are using us to reach the next generation. I pray for the women who need to close loops today. Give them wisdom, give them guidance, give them favor as they reach out to these people that they need to reconcile with. For those of us who have fruit in our lives that need healing, I pray that you reveal those areas to us. Give us the endurance to keep trying to fix them and reach out for healing to you when we need it. And for those of us with children in our home in this next generation, they look asleep, they look dead, but you say they're just asleep. I pray that you give us the endurance, the faith, the hope to keep declaring life over them. Constantly work on us spiritually, Lord, so that we can heal, so that the next generation can be awakened. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.